Hello, hello. Yeah, it's me. I'm at the work table. It needs a bit of an organise. I'm realising that I've got the that bottle of paint to get rid of. But yeah, I thought I've been developing a few things, quite a lot of stuff since I last did a video. Uh, yes, all of this stuff. So I thought this is a sort of a generalised update sort of thing. Um, got a few things on. I'm part way through doing uh, uh, with the partly painted stuff. So I've got 30 billmen there, 30 archers there, and then eventually we'll go on to another 30 archers and 10 knights, men at arms, and this is and that is a War of the Roses project. They're all old glory models, and they're generally going to be you'll notice that they're in the white and red. Uh, I need to add to it slightly with another couple of bags of stuff, but they are going to be Lord Ferrers. Well, it's I think it's eighth Earl Ferrers, who was one of the Devereux, and he'd managed to marry into the Ferrers the family. So that's War of the Roses period. Eventually, I want to try and get I found that the Hollands. I think I know the third Holland the Holland that was the third Earl of Exeter. He was around about Agincourt, and of course this is 50 years later. But I found out that he'd basically his troops are the same livery, the white and the red. But I'd quite like to do I think it's Thomas Stanley of Lancashire, who was a bit dithery and probably had ergotism at the Battle of Bosworth. And then his younger brother, he charged in and stuff. I'd like to get a couple of retinues for them as well. And with these guys, it's just sort of a case of the general troops. I'm going to I'm just going to swap the commanders around probably. And I've got a couple of forces for War of the Roses. But yeah, you can see a couple of other things in there. There's light bombard on Burgundian rigging. Yeah, amongst that lot, there's in the corner there. There's Blackadder, some of the crew, a couple of extra things to sort of add to being so I can add to stuff to be a Bretonnian army. So yeah, there's a Henry V. I think it's a First Corps Henry V. You can just about see him. Patting his head there on a footsore Trish Carden Griffon. And you got the snail-knights. I think those are foundries on Eureka giant snails. And the giant snails are from there. They've got an Hieronymus Bosch series of models. But yeah, a couple of other bits. Yeah, you've seen the Tree Man before, I think. But yeah, and well, about a year ago, I did a film about it at the time, because I've really gotten into knights. So yeah, these are early. Well, all of this lot have started painting some of the metalwork on them. Yeah, I don't know what's happening with my forefingernail, but yeah, from all of this lot, it's 3 dozen metal knights from First Corps. They're going to get some, I say knights, mounted men at arms, but they're normally nicknamed knights. But yeah, they're mounted men at arms from First Corps. Started painting these guys. I'm going to try and do like a proper job, historical, early 100 Years War sort of thing. Hopefully, I'm going to be able to do is 1 dozen. So all the silver ones I've got the armour for, and then divvy them up because it's going to be they're going to be English forces. A third of them they're going to get reinforcements, and I've got some claymore casting mounted men at arms on order. I'm waiting for them to arrive. Yeah, these one third of them all are going to be for around Poitiers. So I'm trying to find some of the heraldry for those that fought at Poitiers. I know a few. There's John Chandos and I was going to call him Joseph. It's not Joseph. Audley. Anyway, they actually both are quite local to me, and I'd quite like to sort of get a batch based around them. I've been particularly taken by the early 100 War period because there's the whole all the stuff in Gascony. There's the Cressy campaign. There's the Breton War of Succession, and then there's the Black Prince tooling across the border into Spain as well. And there's a bit of a sort of a thing with that as well. So that's all sort of quite fascinating. And yeah, particularly with Poitiers in the division with the Black Prince, there was Chandos and Audley leading parts of it, and both of them are local to me. They're from, well, John Chandos he's from a small village outside the city where I live, and one of the estates, very, very, yeah, within city limit, in the current city limits, probably within about a mile's walk from where John Chandos lived, was one of Audley's estates. So, yeah, I'd quite like to do a batch of them. I'm particularly enamoured by the Breton stuff, but I'd like to try and get to, because Chandos was also, well, he was in Brittany and he was in Cressy. But yeah, it'd be nice to try and get some of these done for all of that, or just do, or alternatively just do Poitiers, Cressy, and then generic made up heraldry for these guys. The last batch based around the rule of tincture. Sorry, tincture. I think it didn't sound like I'd pronounced the C, but yeah. So yeah, it's just trying to sort of plan a few things because it'd be nice to sort of, yeah, it'd be nice to sort of, yeah, get a few things. It's one of those things. It's with Poitiers. It's a bit debatable whether there were how much. Even the supposed cavalry charge. There's some debate about whether it was dismounted knights and men at arms that actually did the flanking manoeuvre. So, but I think generally, more often than not, the common consensus is that there was a flanking manoeuvre that did mounted. But yeah, but then again, it's sort of mostly sort of, yeah. I've been trying to find enough because at Poitiers there was some Gascon troops there. It's trying to find enough decent variety of because there were Gascon javeliniers as light infantry. It's trying to find enough of them, but I know there were skirmishers. I know there were Gascon crossbowmen as skirmishers as well. But from what I can sort of tell, they were actually decently armoured, and they were, they were basically sort of dismounted, mounted crossbowmen. So, they had a horse, but, they dismounted for the battle and acted as light infantry. And they were decently armoured enough. And I think there's a few rangers that have a variety of moderately, decently armoured crossbowmen. There's a bit of armour, a bit of chainmail, a bit of, acatons and gambesons and, padded armour and stuff. But, no pavises. Whatever the plural for pavis is. But yeah, because I know there are Genoese crossbowmen or pavassiers who had the pavis with them, or were meant to. Uh, told the French commanders at Crécy that they were meant to have the pavises with them. Things might have been different. But yeah, so yeah, I've got a bit of a 100 war thing. There was a video I did a short while ago where it was I was trying to I'd got Midgard, never mind the ruckus, no, never mind the billhooks, and here's the ruckus, and Hail Caesar with the War of the Roses supplement. I know there's Test of Honor as well. I've recently got a load of the cards for those games. I've got because part of the whole me going off on this is because I found me English Civil War stuff, and so I've got the never mind the matchlocks rules and stuff. So it'd sort of be quite nice to sort of eventually get it back into them, because I've got a bit of a thing in the back of my mind for that. I'd quite like to do a force or a selection of forces based around Henry Hastings. He'd been at Tutbury Castle. No, he hadn't. He had, in the sense that much later on there was the siege of Tutbury Castle, and he'd been involved with being, holding the castle, but he'd mainly been at Ashby de la Zouche. But yeah, that's quite fascinating because he'd actually held a lot of lands, much of the lands around where I used to grow up and stuff. So yeah. Anyway, and I've got several bits to do with like the Battle of Poitiers. I think I know what I'm doing with a Crécy contingent. A Breton contingent I'm not necessarily too sure about, but I'm going to have to get a few bits of those. But yeah, if I'm to do historically accurate Poitiers, I'm going to need 3,000 dismounted knights, 2,000 archers, 500 javelineers, and 500 crossbowmen. But I think trying to get all of them is going to be a bad idea. But yeah. So I'm going to have a bit of a think about trying to scale that back a bit. But anyway, that's a bit of an update. I'll probably get distracted from that again soon, because I've been in the process of doing all that. I've been researching specific knights, and there were some really cool characters hanging around the Barons' War and stuff. One of the Hollands, ancestors of the Earls of Exeter. They did some cool stuff, and the Ferrers family were up to stuff. So it'd be nice to get I've got the first edition of Barons' War, but it'd be nice to get some of the second edition stuff. Perhaps the box set with the plastics in, perhaps. I'm not sure. Anyway, I'm rambling now. I'm blathering away. I also thought, in another childlike grand scheme, was that in Warhammer 40,000 you have the Imperial Knights. Wouldn't it be fun to do a couple of the Imperial Knights up in actual heraldry? And it's like, I shouldn't. I've got I've got projects coming out of me like nobody's business. Anyway, that's generally it. all that remains to say, for me to say, is stay safe, stay groovy.